A lawyer told me once that you don't have to have a privacy policy, but it is a good idea. So it's something you should at least have on your radar to do. But if you do have a policy, then you don't want to just throw one up just to have one. You want it to be accurate, 100% representative of what you collect and do with people's information from your website. So it's really important. And a lot of laws dictate that you have to have a privacy policy. European laws, of course, are the most strict. In the United States, California has the most strict laws for the people, consumers' privacy. So the law does say that if you do have a privacy policy, it has to be linked down at the bottom. So you see I have a privacy policy linked at the bottom of every page. It's at the footer. Pretty much every page has that link. So you'll see that it goes to a special page for the privacy policy. And it just lays out everything that I collect or do with your information, where your information could go, the fact that those places have their own privacy policies. So if you want to know, if your information does end up on one of those websites, you need to know how it's used there. So getting a privacy policy is actually really easy, but you just need to know about your website. If I can type. So you can actually search Google for a free privacy policy, and this is just one that you have to make yourself. So it's basically question and answers. That's why you need to know how your website works, all of that. You need to work with your website developer. But the best route is, of course, to have one, put together by a lawyer, a real lawyer. And just a side note, this video is just a recommendation. It's not official legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't be responsible for not giving lawyerly like advice. But I have talked to lawyers about this, and so I do have some secondhand knowledge. But of course, some information may have been lost in translation. So what I do, though, for privacy policy, because I know my system and I know what it collects and where it can send your information, I can put together a free privacy policy. Most web developers, and you could probably put it together if you ask the right questions and err on the side of caution. There's also things like Shopify has a free template for a privacy policy. Theirs is a little more basic, but freeprivacypolicy.com is pretty complex in all the questions that they ask you. You can start your free policy, and the policy is free, but to get a terms of use policy, that will cost you money. It's not very expensive. It says a monthly charge, but if you don't buy it and keep refusing it, the price does go down each time. So I paid for a terms of service, I paid $35 one-time fee. So you kind of have to say who you are in relation to your website. So if you're the owner, what you're doing with your website. Do you sell physical products, digital products, just a service, and then next? And then you have to tell the system you have to think through everything that you collect on your website, which is usually quite a bit of information. You're usually collecting, even in a contact form, that's collecting information. So you have to think through everything, whether you save it intentionally or not. Your system probably does save it. So contact information, definitely name, email address. Hopefully you're not collecting social security and credit card info. And then, of course, it asks when you're collecting that information and why you're collecting it. So once you get through there, you can read, are you PCI compliant? And if you mouse over these, it gives you some instructions on if you're PCI, what that means. And not everybody's going to be PCI compliant. Your website might not have, security, or you might not collect credit card information, stuff like that. Of course, it's always best to have your website secured. And then also, if your website receives regular scans, that's either you do that or your host does that, but you need to be sure who does that if you say yes. So these are things that if you're going to give an answer to them, you need to know the absolute accurate answer to these. You can't just go down the questionnaire and guess, because then you're going to end up with an inaccurate privacy policy, and that is, as the lawyers tell me, worse than not having one at all. So make sure it's accurate. And then you can go through and just keep answering all of these questions. And I'm answering stuff incorrectly because I'm not really I'm not really paying attention. But once you get to the final part of it, they'll email, they'll send you a username and password, and you can download your privacy policy in a document format. And once you do that, you can paste it in a privacy policy page on your website. And so I did that, but then I also added some sections in, like where information is collected, where it goes. You want people to know where that information goes on third-party websites, because that's relevant to people. They deserve to know where every bit of information goes. So go out and get a free privacy policy if you think you can try to go through the answers, and if you're not really sure and you're not 100% sure you're answering accurately, then you're probably best off either consulting a lawyer or not having a privacy policy until some kind of issue arises. So just be careful with that. Make sure you know the answers. If you are not sure about the answer, but you think you can err on the side of caution, one specific part of that is one of the questions is, does your website react to no tracking signals? If you don't know the answer to that, you can probably answer no, it doesn't respond to it. You're better off doing that. And if your website responds to it, great. But if it doesn't, you're still safe. So in those types of scenarios, err on the side of caution. But go out there and get your privacy policy, post it in your website, and make sure there's a link at the bottom of every page available for the privacy policy, and then also a terms and conditions is recommended. Those might be a little harder to come by, so the privacy policy tells visitors how their information is used, how it's stored, how their private information is treated. Terms of service, more protects you for telling people how they're supposed to use your website. Like, you're responsible, the visitor's responsibility on your website. So the privacy policy is your responsibility towards their information. Terms of service is their responsibility towards your website. So go out and get both. Privacy policy you should have. Terms of service, always a good idea also. So good luck. Now that you've checked out an Exprance video to help you expand your small business online presence, be sure to subscribe so you can watch more videos as they come out. Or you can check out the ebook that will help you grow your email list without even having a website in case you don't have one. Or you could check out another video.